You may already know your way around the Shroud. Maybe you have ascended a few times, picked up some perks, formed a covenant, but are you actually using the wheel efficiently? Most psionic empires drift through the wheel without an actual plan. They pick up 1 or 2 patron perks, get stuck on one side, and finish the game with a fraction of the strength they could have had. Hey everyone, Action here, and in this video I'm going to show you my strategies and some very important tips you can use in all of your psionic runs to become a lot stronger. Quick report from High Command before we dive deeper. Most of you watching aren't officially enlisted yet. If this run gives you ideas for your own games, subscribe and join our navy. Now, what differentiates a strong psionic empire from a regular one is how they make use of the Shroud Wheel. If you already have a basic understanding of the Shroud Wheel, you can move on to our explanations, but if you wanna know a little bit more about how the mechanics work, you can stick to this section. The wheel operates like this. There are 4 major patrons on each cardinal direction. Starting clockwise, we have the Instrument of Desire, Cradle of Souls, Composer of Strands, and Eater of Worlds. In the middle there is a special major patron, the Whisperers in the Void, but this one is a special case that we'll cover later on. Additionally, at each major patron intersection, there are the minor patrons. There are always 2 possible minor patrons per each intersection for a total of 8. You can only have 1 per intersection though, and they are randomized. On top of that, all major patrons have 2 perks that you acquire once you have 300 and 600 attunement with them. These perks are permanent, meaning you can achieve them and lose attunement and you will retain the perks. This is extremely important because you want to collect all the perks from all the patrons, especially the 600 attunement one, since it gives you a special building of that patron that gives you telepath jobs, the most important job for psionic empires. Later on, you can form a covenant with a specific patron to get access to 2 covenant powers, on top of preventing the psionic aura from changing to a different major patron regardless of the attunement. So, when you form a covenant, you are stuck with that patron and its powers until the end of the game, and if you refuse, you'll never be asked again from that patron. Therefore, be careful when going around the wheel to not mistakenly refuse the covenant that you desire. Minor patrons operate similarly. Once you reach the intersection between 2 major patrons, you'll permanently get the bonuses from the minor patron, even if you end up in the opposite direction later on. But how do you get attunement and move within the Shroud? Well, every patron has deeds and accords that you can do, tasks that will give you different amounts of attunements and are in line with the patron personality. The Cradle of Souls, for instance, is all about diplomacy, whereas the Eater of Worlds is all about war. Increasing the attunement with one will directly reduce your attunement with the opposite patron. Since almost everything you do in the game is a deed for some patron, just by playing the game normally, you'll get attunement with different patrons, meaning you'll be going around the wheel without any direction unless you have a plan. This is what differentiates the powerful psionic empires that acquire all the perks in an instant from those that take decades, even centuries to acquire them all and are stuck with a weak empire. In order to get them as fast as possible, ideally you want to follow either the clockwise or counterclockwise rotation. This is the logical path. You stack attunement with 1 major patron to nearly the maximum and start rotating. The most important thing is to decide which patron will be your first. All patrons are easier to gain attunement with in the later stages of the game in general. Take for instance the Cradle of Souls. All of its callings are about forming diplomatic agreements with other empires, and if you don't have good relations with your neighbors, well, then you're stuck for a very long time until you find someone who likes you. In Stellaris 4.3, the best wheel configuration for me is this. You start with the Instrument of Desire and move to either Cradle of Souls if you have good relations with neighbors, or Eater of Worlds if you have bad relations. The Instrument of Desire has by far the easiest callings. Ascend a planet, build a building, district, upgrade a building. We do all of this just by playing and improving our empire. In the early game, we can't afford to make bad decisions just for the sake of getting attunement. On top of that, the Instrument of Desire first perk is very helpful in the early game. Getting plus 10% resources from jobs when you have very few modifiers is extremely powerful. The second perk gives gives you the Sanctum of the Instrument, increasing trade from jobs and happiness, another economy boost for us. In most cases, I would try to form a covenant with the Instrument of Desire right away due to the planetary ascension bonuses you get from it, but that's my personal preference and I will explain the reasoning later in the video. After getting the Instrument of Desire perks, I recommend you actually move into the Eater of Worlds in most cases. The reasoning is that by this time you will ideally be looking to expand your empire through conquest. If not, you'll still want a navy to defend yourself. The Eater of Worlds has incredibly easy callings, claim a system, build armies, build ships, and all of these can be done without any tech requirement or good relations. You just do it. On top of that, these are all useful. Even if you're not going to war soon, you'll need ships and armies someday. The Eater of Worlds give you plus 15% ship fire rate and plus 50% army damage. Your armies will be significantly stronger, which is nice, but the ship fire rate is where it's at. That plus 15% is incredibly valuable in the early and mid game. At 600 attunement, we gain 2 war doctrines, which are not that great, but the Sanctum of the Eater building is incredibly OP. It reduces ship upkeep by minus 5%, which is a very rare modifier, and it also increases the weapon range by plus 10%, one of, if not the best, ship modifier that we can have. The intersection between these two major patrons also has one of the best minor patrons, the Black River. It unlocks an edict that gives you plus 25% sublight speed, gives you dark matter production from your telepaths, meaning that you don't need to have the dark matter drawing technology and can buy dark matter straight from the market. And the Psionic Aura also gives you plus 25% sublight speed for a total of plus 50%. Your ships are going to be the fastest ones in the galaxy, Commander. The other minor patron, the Vacant Throne, he is not that good, so I'm praying that you get the Black River instead. With this setup, the third major patron would be the Composer of Strands. This one will be a little tricky to get, since you need to stop developing your planets, otherwise you'll get attunement with the Instrument of Desire and lose your progress towards the Composer. Since the deeds you have available are always random, you must base yourself out of the callings. Growing pops takes time, and 1500 pops usually take around 5 years if you have 5 colonies with good population. Founding a colony is easy on the other hand. You can colonize a planet even with low habitability just to get the calling done. Building an outpost is also very easy. Scout for systems with space fauna and mining drones. The AI always leave them alive and you can destroy the threat and build the outpost there. The Composer of Strands perks are very good. The first one gives you plus 20% pop growth, really good for psionics that lack this bonus, and the second one gives you the Shrouded Vegetation blockers, which are also incredibly good, giving you 1 row per blocker. The Sanctum of the Composer is also useful, giving us plus 10% habitability and 20 years lifespan. Unfortunately, the minor patrons in this intersection aren't that good. The best one in my opinion is the Pale Mountain. It gives you plus 10% pop growth speed bonus to your psionic aura and unlocks the Wheel of Rebirth, which gives your ships plus 5% hull and armor regen. Very useful for prolonged wars where you can't call your ships back for repairs. Now, by this time, the galactic community must have been formed already and you will have contact with multiple empires in the galaxy. This means that the diplomatic options are much greater than in the early game and you can complete the Cradle of Souls callings a lot faster. Things like the Defender of the Galaxy Ascension perk will get good relations with basically everyone. This patron is extremely easy to get attunement in the late game, just be sure to not go to the war side and lose attunement with it. The bonuses from the Cradle of Souls are all diplomatic ones, they are not very relevant in my opinion. The minor patrons from the intersection of Cradle plus Composer are 2. If there are any Shroud Forged Empire in the galaxy, you can only get the Outsider, which gives a lot of zero per telepaths but not much else. The Animator Clay is where it's at. It gives you plus 5% metallurgist job efficiency per telepath. That is absurdly high. On top of that, it boosts your aura to get even more pop assembly speed and unlocks an edict giving you evasion and fire rate. 2 good combat bonuses on top of the hull and armor regen. Just pray to not have any Shroud Forged Empires in the galaxy so you can get it. The final part of the Shroud is the intersection between the Instrument of Desire and Cradle of Souls. This one also has rather dual minor patrons. The Golden Dream gives you more happiness from telepaths and plus 10% amenities from the psionic aura. The Hollow Point gives you more diplomatic weight from telepaths and more happiness from the psionic aura. Both have similar power overall and don't modify the gameplay too much, so whatever one is okay. way. Now, talking about the Covenants, my personal preference is forming the Covenant with the Instrument of Desire. My gameplays last very long, most of the times we fight all the crises, and that extends the gameplay to around year 2400. The Instrument of Desire aura ascends all of your colonies slowly until they reach the level 10. For my playstyle, this is the best possible augment, since the Empire size reduction compounds across very long campaigns. On top of the bonuses, Colony Ascension reduces the Empire size greatly, which in turn reduces the tech and tradition cost later on. Also, the Covenant drawbacks from the instrument are by far the most negligible one. Your pops cost an advanced resource in upkeep for a little bit. That's it. Take for comparison the Composer of Strands. Not only forming a Covenant gives you -2 organic trait picks, which is terrible, but you also have a 15% chance of losing a leader and 25% chance of basically losing 400 pops. That's much worse. In the long run, you want to have your leaders alive with their extremely powerful destiny trait. Imagine losing that perfect admiral with Master Gunner right when you're fighting the crisis. Now, talking about the final element of the Shroud Wheel, the eye in the middle, the Whisperers in the Void. This is a special patron that has a 3% chance of appearing every year after the mid-game. Consider that you found all the other 4 major patrons, therefore it's guaranteed to appear after 33 years. Once it appears, you can accept it or reject. If you accept it and also have a covenant with any of the other patrons, the Whisperers will consume your covenant patron. If you don't have a covenant, you can choose which patron to replace. The obvious one will always be the Cradle of Souls. Therefore, if you want to maximize your late game potential, it might be good to wait out until the Whisperers appear, and then you can form a covenant with your desired patron. The Whisperers in the Void are extremely good though. The first perk already gives you plus 15% research speed, and the second one is kinda bad, giving you the Sanctum of the Whisperers, just some random bonuses, and 50% more chance to draw rare technologies, which is not that big of a deal to be honest. The reason why the Whisperers in the Void are so strong is that first, they replace your weakest patron with a plus 15% research speed. Second, their aura gives you a large sum of research points every time it reaches maximum intensity. This creates a very strong setup that you can delay your covenant, change the Cradle of Souls for the Whisperers in the Void, use the Whisperers in the Void aura to stack a bunch of research. Remember, the stored research does not have a cap, and since you'll be getting so much research points, you'll most likely store more than you can consume. After a certain point, you can shift and form a covenant with the Instrument of Desire to have the psionic aura ascend your planets instead. This is a strategy that works only if you have a delayed covenant. In other words, only if you took too much time to finish the entire Shroud Wheel and grab all the minor patrons, because otherwise having a covenant from very early on will snowball you so hard that the stored research won't matter much. If you wish to form a covenant with the Whisperers in the Void though, go for it. It gives you even more research with its powers, and you can even transform any of your colonies to a relic world. Beware though, forming a covenant with the Whisperers has a great cost. It has the highest chance of losing a leader, 25%. It also has a 45% chance of reducing their lifespan, and the other 30% chance you are going to lose pops and lose tremendous stability across the entire empire. There's also a 5% chance that you get offered at the end of the cycle instead of the Whisperers in the Void, but that particular patron is a topic for another video. The Venatorian Empire has begun. Every Saturday a new episode is released and channel members have exclusive powers. If you are a Grand Admiral and above, you can command your own fleets and order them across our roleplay. Warlords can also submit their own saves and I'll review and improve them, whatever save you want. So if you have been watching this channel and want to be a greater part of what we are building, join the High Command. Well, commanders, those are some of my strategies and tips regarding psionics. Of course, there is a lot more to cover, like Divine Sovereign, Civic interactions, and other strategies that are build specific, but I will leave this for another video. And if this guide helped you out understanding the psionics a little bit better, leave a like because it also helps me out a lot. And as always, commanders, I'll see you guys next time.